Hello, everybody. Good morning from wherever you're tuning in. I'm Indy Lee, and I could not be more excited to lead this panel, which is really about how Eastern medicine meets Western medicine with a touch of digital medicine. And so, a little bit about me. I'm Indy Lee. I'm the CEO of Indy Lee, which is a clean skincare line. But more importantly, I am also a board member for what we now refer to as the Autoimmune Association, which is one of the greatest honors that I could have been ever given. I am at least a 3-time autoimmune patient with including rheumatoid arthritis, and a whole host of other things, including a recurring brain tumor. So this is something that I am so passionate about and truly believe that there are ways for us to integrate various different modalities into our own treatment protocol. Or I don't want to use I hate using the word treatment because we all know there is no cure for autoimmune and chronic diseases, but we do find a way to manage them so that we can live the fullest life possible. I am honored today to be joined by 2 other autoimmune thrivers and warriors. We have Tina, I hope I'm going to say this, Aswani Prakash. Did I say it right? Yes. Okay. Who is an IBD patient advocate. Thank you so much, Tina, for being here with us today. And I have Melissa Talwar, who's a board certified functional medicine health coach and the executive director of Support Fibromyalgia Network. So Melissa, thank you so much. And I thought, and we were supposed to have Dr. Bonnie with us today, who is also a doctor, a dentist, an MBA, and the founder and CEO of Autoimmune Connect. Unfortunately, she isn't able, but I thought what I would do is run through to set a preface for today's panel, what really conventional, complementary digital medicine is, and we're also then move to a pre-recording. So just to give you some context for today, and I'm going to read these so I don't mess them up and then everybody's yelling at me in the chat that that's not what it is. Conventional medicine is really, and we're going off of Merriam-Webster's dictionary, is the usual methods of healing and treating diseases that are taught in Western medical schools. So this is basically when we're going to our physicians and what the care that you receive when you're seeing your doctor. Complementary medicine is really a range of medical therapies that fall beyond the scope of scientific, but may be used alongside in the treatment of disease and ill health. So this could be acupuncture, osteotherapy, there's working with dietitians. So there are so many things. And I just want to, before we go to digital, note the word complementary, right? We're not saying that this is a complete, has to be an alternative. We're saying we, as this panel, would love to talk about how you can bring different modalities so that you can have the best optimal result for you, realizing that every patient's journey is different. And then also, like I said, digital health. And so Dr. Bonnie Feldman wasn't able to join us today, unfortunately. She was kind enough to really record some remarks to fill us in on what digital medicine is all about, and really how her experience about converging the best of conventional, digital, and complementary. And then we're going to dive in with the rest of the panelists. But if the producer wouldn't mind queuing up Dr. Bonnie's remarks to help us out, that'd be great.
Welcome. I'm Dr. Bonnie Feldman, affectionately known on Twitter as Dr. Bonnie360, and I'm delighted to be here today to share with you how to find your personal power and make the best use of conventional, functional, and digital medicine. I want to thank the meeting organizers of the Autoimmune Association, Lily Stairs and her team, for giving me this opportunity to share with you the lessons that I have learned the hard way. After practicing as a clinical dentist for many years and then working on Wall Street as an equity analyst, when my second son-in-law was diagnosed with an autoimmune disease, I de facto became an autoimmune patient advocate. At that time, I didn't even know what it meant, but at Stanford Medicine X in 2014, I met many of the people who are attending this meeting and found incredible support. And I dared to imagine a team where the patient was at the center, working collaboratively across digital, conventional, and functional medicine to help them manage their disease on a daily basis. This imaginary team included a well-being team, a musculoskeletal integrity team, and a food as medicine team. The good news is that since 2014, we have much better tools. And the bad news is it's been very hard to accomplish the creation of these teams. So let me share with you some of the things I learned the hard way to jumpstart your journey as you become the CEO of your own health. The first thing I needed to do was to get organized. I had paper records all over the place. I didn't really understand my medical history. And then I needed to get educated. What is digital medicine, or what is integrative and functional medicine? Integrative and functional medicine is all over the internet, and it's really easy to be sold snake oil. So I spent a very long time coming up a steep learning curve trying to sort out what I call the hype from the hope. But once I understood what I wanted to accomplish, then I had to get brave. And to get brave, I needed to fearlessly experiment and get assertive. And what I mean is, in putting together these teams, I had to hire and fire a lot of doctors until I finally found a group that would support me in my journey. Let me backtrack for a little bit for those that don't know what is digital health. These are exciting times with new tools that can help us. Digital health is the convergence of genomics, microbiomics, epigenetics, and other omics. And these tools can help us to collect data, communicate with our providers, track your progress, and importantly, personalize our own care. For years, autoimmune disease has not been personalized, and that has been some of the struggles and frustrations that we have all experienced. Another lesson I learned the hard way is about movement therapy. Because I have an initial diagnosis of fibromyalgia and I've been in physical therapy twice a week for over 30 years, it never occurred to me that there were other things I could do. But the light bulb went on when I discovered other movement therapies could be helpful to help manage chronic pain. Some of the less familiar ones would be gyrotonic and Feldenkrais. It's a big topic, and I encourage you to go to my website, drbonnie360.com, where there is an ebook on movement therapy as well as other explanations. Another thing that is often overlooked, and of course, as a dentist, you would think I would be excited about why we should care about our oral health. Even though I have very good hygiene, I myself have advanced periodontal disease, and no one has been able to figure this out. Except now is an exciting time because we're learning more about the oral systemic connection to autoimmune diseases, and we are also finding out more information about the oral microbiome. The oral microbiome is an entirely new topic. You've probably heard about the gut microbiome, and if you want to learn more, I encourage you to go to my website. But stepping back in terms of how do we put together teams and how do we find the best of conventional, functional, and digital medicine, I want to focus on the big picture goals. And what I have found to be helpful is to cultivate positivity, hope, gratitude, and joy in all areas of our daily lives. This helps to build resilience so that we can cope with our symptoms, minimize our flares, and prevent recurrences. So I want to encourage each of us to experiment fearlessly. And here's a few things that I have tried that have been helpful. In getting organized, I had paper files all over the place. Pictal Health is Katie McCurdy's company, and she worked long and hard to help me create a picture of my health history. And I bring this picture to every new provider, conventional, functional, and digital medicine coaching, and it's been extremely useful. MyMe, which is a sponsor here and is a fabulous program, gives you a coach and helps you to identify your specific trigger. Once again, helping you to personalize your care. And lest we not forget about oral health, Bristle is a new oral microbiome testing company. So I encourage each of you to become and experiment fearlessly. Thank you very much. You can reach me at drbonnie360.com. Bye-bye.
I love it. Oh my gosh. That was probably perfect way to kick this off. And I'm excited because I want to have both Tina and Melissa introduce themselves. And I loved what Dr. Bonnie said is experiment fearlessly. And another word that she used over and over is being an advocate. And I think as autoimmune thrivers, I think each one of us can say that's what we do. We advocate for ourselves. So with that, Tina wanted to kick us off and tell us a little bit about yourself and why this topic is so important to you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Indy Lee, and thank you, Lily Stairs, and to the entire Autoimmune Association for having us here today on this very important topic. My name is Tina Swani Omprakash. I live with Crohn's disease. I have multiple autoimmune conditions. I also live with a whole host of digestive diseases. So this is a topic that's very, very important to me for a variety of reasons. I think on one hand, it's important to me because culturally speaking, there is a great push towards complementary and alternative therapies. I'm of South Asian background, and this is something that, my family and extended family, really friend circle, consider to be of great value when it comes to, helping to manage our conditions. And this is something that I've tried many times over. I have found to be very useful at times, but at other times not so useful. And I think it's going to be important to discuss how to discern, in our journeys, what's best for us. So that's why I'm here today, and I'm very excited to speak on this topic. Thank you again.
Amazing. Okay, and kicking this over to Melissa. Hi, Melissa. Again, thank you so much for joining me this morning, and very early from you in California.
Thank you to everyone for having me on this panel. I'm Melissa, and I'm a board certified functional medicine health coach and the executive director for the Support Fibromyalgia Network. I'm excited to share my journey and knowledge with everyone today. So thank you for attending. At 14 years old, I sustained a major concussion and sports injury. I was headed to the Olympics, and unfortunately, my life changed forever. I was in debilitating chronic pain with all the brain fog issues, having mobility issues. And that's kind of how I just stopped for over 20 years. I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia, and then in my late 20s and 30s, I got a whole bunch of inconclusive autoimmune conditions. So I'm an in-betweener. They told me I possibly had RA, Hashimoto's, indeterminate colitis. It's all over my charts. And then by 36, I was told by a very expensive practitioner that I needed to prepare for my end of life care because my body was completely shutting down. I couldn't find my way home after driving. I was tethered to a bathroom. My mobility was completely gone. So this was the point in time where I used any bit of brain health I had left. I learned the term biohacking, which to me just meant empowering myself to take my health back, and became my advocate. I studied, I learned about functional medicine principles and took Dr. Terry Walls and Dr. Bredesen, combined it together, and I changed my life. So I'm happy to share some of the complementary, which I wish will end up being more part of traditional care soon, with all of you today.
You know what, Melissa, I think it is. And I think that's what's so exciting about this conversation this morning is really about how we've all managed to find different modalities that work for each one of us. I too, like I said, have multiple, some of them indeterminate. I also do have RA. And we learned that I had rheumatoid arthritis in 2008. And then I started to lose my vision. And that's when I was diagnosed with a brain tumor. And like you, I was told 6 months. And they had no idea what it was. Fortunately, I was able to successfully have it removed, only to a year later get diagnosed with the second one. And that's when we started tying all these things. And fortunately, I live with it. I named it Hermione, FYI, for any of those, like, heroine from Harry Potter. But it was my way of saying, I'm taking control of this. And I think that's what this is all about. It is finding ways for us to take control of our health and create teams, right? Which can cross between conventional, functional, and digital, and really make that an integrative approach where we're leading the charge with a group of practitioners that are helping us. At least that's how I look at this journey. I was hoping that, Tina, you can walk us a little bit through how you worked with both, Eastern, Western medicine, and how you've been able to kind of integrate that for yourself, as well as the advocacy that you had to do for yourself.
Absolutely, India. I think what's been important to know is that in my culture, culturally speaking, we like to use these therapies on their own instead of traditional medicine. This has been an issue that I dealt with and had to push back a lot on. So when I was first diagnosed with Crohn's disease, I was told, oh, no, Tina, that's a diet and lifestyle condition. You need to clean up your diet. There was a lot of shaming and blaming and guilt tripping. And it was very, very difficult because that's what our society may know about this disease. And I was very young, and I felt like I had to consider things like naturopathy or homeopathy or Ayurveda and not take the medications prescribed by my doctor. It turned into a real tug of war between my doctor and my family, to be honest with you. And I was stuck in the middle. Mind you, I'm the one dealing with the symptoms,
of course,
the problems psychosocially, and trying to manage this war that's going on in front of me. And for that reason, and as a result of that, I realized, there's ways that, that this can be married, that this can be cleared or by physicians, that this can be talked about more openly. Did I go down a rough path because of not taking medication? Yes, I did. I did land in emergency surgery due to a variety of reasons, one of which I thought was not taking my medications and solely considering alternative therapies. But that said, since then, I think I've learned that there's ways to manage this. And this is part of, my social media advocacy. This is part of my blog, Own Your Crohn's. What is owning my Crohn's? What is owning all these, I don't know, like 18 or 20 conditions that I have? It really is taking the practices of Western medicine, traditional medicine. I am on a biologic therapy. I absolutely know I need it. I have had surgery. I live with a permanent ileostomy. I've had at least 20 surgeries. But the thing to note here is I have a lot of functional GI issues, IBS, gastroparesis, and I have a lot of extraintestinal manifestations that do well with acupuncture, and I don't even know if this is technically a complementary therapy. It's part of my routine now, pelvic floor physical therapy. These are things that help me move, like Dr. Bonnie Feldman was saying also, they help me move. They've become a part of my routine. Exercise has, but in addition to that, whether it's using certain essential oils or using things that will help to manage my migraines a little bit better, help to manage my allergies a little bit better, my asthma a little bit better, the deep breathing exercises, things like that, Reiki. I'm happy to do it if I'm seeing a difference. Recently, I've been doing lymphatic drainage for all the severe constipation that I've been having. I have noticed a difference. My doctors are more on board with it, knowing that there's been studies now for electroacupuncture and gastroparesis, and my doctor's on board with it. So I personally really like to see more of an integrative approach. And
yes, I agree.
How I've been going about this is my care is at a major facility in New York, at a few of them, but one of them has an integrative medicine center with a doctor who understands sort of the complementary medicine, but also understands how to read an MRI.
Exactly. So important. It's so important. And I think that one of the things that you said that was so important for everybody here is this panel is not about saying, don't take your medicine. Yeah. Right? Like I take medicine. I was on methotrexate. I'm now on another biologic, and I'm not going to not take it, because when I don't, I have terrible flare-ups. I'm in bed. I mean, the repercussions up and down, and there's concerns about, the brain tumor growing. And so we're not here to say, don't do this. Don't listen to your doctor. We're here to say there are additional modalities that help you to obtain an even better quality. That is the goal, to have the best quality of life, knowing there is no cure, but how can we use these different opportunities that are now coming forth to help optimize our lifestyle. But I just want to make sure for anybody listening, we're not just, you said it so perfectly. We're not saying if your doctor puts you on medicine, don't listen to them. The best opportunity is when you can find this integrative doctor and you can form a team. Something that Dr. Bonnie said that I think is so important is it's okay to fire your doctor. Now, listen, I love my team, but please know for me, it took years to find the right team that was willing to talk to each other and realize and understood that the best life for me is when I'm using additional therapies that go beyond just taking medication. And as a result, my life has been transformed. My brain tumor stopped growing. My rheumatoid arthritis is, right now we're maintaining, because that's what it is for me. It's a maintain. And many of the other ones, do I have bad days? Of course. Do I have flare-ups? Of course. But I'm able to then talk to my team and say, okay, what fluctuated and what can I do to get back to a baseline? And that's what for me is so exciting about this panel and this new way of thinking for people. Because listen, and then I definitely want to go to Melissa. I think that we know there could be a lot of people listening to this who have rare disease or where there isn't any known therapy, right? They don't know, right? We know there's no cure for these things, but they don't necessarily know what their diagnosis is, or what, is there a known therapy available for them? So they're going to need to look at these complementary, therapies to help them to optimize their life while the medical field continues to catch up, while the Autoimmune Association continues to do advocacy and help do research. So it's so exciting. So with that, sorry, I can go. I know you guys want to geek out on this too. Melissa, I'd love for you to also now share what your experience is, because I think it's fascinating. I've always been interested in biohacking, so I really can't wait to hear.
Well, I love this panel because it's an interesting perspective on how we went through our individual journeys. Because I wish someone had told me, and I mean, I got sick in the 90s when this all first started. I wish I had been sort of geared towards naturopathic medicine or some of the complementary things. Even mental health professionals were not introduced early on, which I wish was a component of this as well. But it's just, I realized, and some of the medication did work, so it's not an anti-med, but I think I was on way too many that I could not decipher what was working or not working, which finally, when I learned to be more of an advocate for myself, I really started tracking. So this became a big thing for the biohacking and stage. I tracked everything, but I used the traditional testing. So standard medical panels. I took the documentation from all the labs and learned what I actually should be at. Optimal lab values. I paid for my own testing too, to try to get some more interesting lab values in there. And then I just integrated everything. So this is where digital health became really important for me. I integrated everything into a platform. I synced my wearable devices. So I started tracking nutrition, breaking down all the levels, movement, sleep, and even bowel movements. I had my whole dashboard with pain. I built it out for me. And that's where I started to see a lot of patterns. And I realized for myself, I had to go more into more natural care. So I got rid of my, some of my products that I was using on my face and cosmetics. I grow my own food. I wish I was better at growing my own food, but I have a vegetable garden. So everything came back into the earth, like doing grounding, all these things that I had never really explored or kind of maybe was like, oh, this is not going to work. I ended up embracing, and that's part of it. And it's just for patients. It's stuff that you can do at home, right? I took back that power because I was running around from doctor to doctor. I'd leave offices crying because they were giving me samples from the pharmaceutical closet, samples. And I just didn't know what to do. I mean, one doctor was like, I can't help you anymore. So I was just crying all the time. It was like, this just got to stop. So some of this really worked for me, and it was like really taking the stuff that I could do at home. And that's where I started slowly making those changes, and it really helped.
It's amazing to hear that you were actually creating digital health before digital health was becoming known. So, hey, everybody, we have the pioneer right here, but it's so true. How many times have you gone to the doctors and they said, I just can't help you, or you know what, and like this is what you have to deal with, and not really understanding the amount of pain and trauma that it causes and the impact it has on your overall life, not just your own physical well-being, but your entire socio, like going out with friends, work, being a parent, your loved ones, etc. impacts. One of the things that you said, Melissa, and that you know what, I think we should also include it, and I don't know if it's in what modality, but you're right, mental health. That is a big, I mean, Tina, you see you shaking your hair. It's a big component of it. I really think that having that team that's going to help you, and then having that resource that isn't your parent or your loved one, because you've got to get them all invested in your care as well, and using these different modalities. Otherwise, and Tina, it sounds like your family was very much go to that side, whereas like I don't know about you, Melissa, my family is like, really, acupuncture, really? And I'm like, I'll try it. I'm dying. Like you start, which I think leads into the next section is there's a lot of information out there that can be misleading, right? People selling the miracle cures. If you do this, we will cure that. And I think we're all so anxious, and you so want to get back to what you remembered as normal, and to feel good and invigorated and not in pain or have any other horrible side effects that so many of the people watching this deal with on a daily, minute by minute basis. So of course you're looking for that magic pill, but it's not really there. I mean, yes, there are these miracle things that do happen, but by and large, I think we all know that that's not a reality for most of us. So curious about what red flags you guys see to avoid, and when you're talking about all three modalities.
I mean, we're looking out for keywords like the cure or making it sound really easy. Because even though I talk about feeling better doing what I did, it's not easy. And I haven't cured myself. And I have a love for pizza. If I gorged myself and went out to go get some New York pizza, which I was visiting on like and stuff like that, I will feel it. So it's
Exactly.
doing those things. So just making sure, because there's a lot of stuff being sold to people, and just letting people know it does take work. It takes a collaborative effort. I feel for people who don't necessarily, like myself, I haven't been, and I'm learning from all of you to assemble a better medical team. That would help a lot. So it's just even learning those components to it. But, watching out for the easy, like you got to do it, and spending a lot of money too. Think about things you can do that maybe are more like locally based, or, investing in food and that stuff as well.
Yeah, I agree with you. There are things that we can be doing. And I see in the chat, people are like, okay, well, this can be really expensive. That can be really expensive. And you're right. And then but you spend it because what kind of price can you put on your health, right? That's everything. That's, and you're looking for these things. And I would say is you really need to do your own research, and then find the team that's going to help you decide. But I think when you start looking on, and if you subscribe here, you're going to have overnight results. I can tell you, I don't think any of us have had those experiences. And so I just saw, Tina, please, Tina, because I saw you talking about some other opportunities here.
So I agree with Melissa with regards to promising a cure. I think that sets off red flags for me now. And I think when I was a younger patient, and when I was new to the diagnosis, or just being chronically ill in general, those kinds of things attracted me. It was easy to be vulnerable to that, because you're right, Indy, like we just want to get back to being normal again, quote unquote. I think that was really, really hard for me. Just the barrage of different opinions coming from different people. And I know we hear that a lot as chronically ill folks. Oh, XYZ did this and their Crohn's is cured. There's no cure for these illnesses. So that's one thing. The other piece of this is, yes, a lot of this is expensive. I know people have bills to pay and have businesses to run, but the chronic illness community is in a special position, in the sense that a lot of us struggle to work or maintain full-time jobs or careers. And this can really feel like it's a very expensive burden on us. So I really specifically would like to see, and this is why I prefer integrative medicine over just seeing private practitioners. There's that legitimacy, one. Two, sometimes insurance will cover it, and there may be ways for insurance to cover it. To me, that adds legitimacy to the cause.
100%.
Because the doctor is also putting in a prior authorization for my acupuncture and saying, hey, Tina is not going to survive on 20 visits this year. Can we do something about maybe increasing it to 40? And she will write those appeal letters. And that's the reality of things. I would like to see that shift so that we can actually trust complementary providers in a way that becomes part of mainstream, but also gets reimbursed in some ways too, because this is a huge expense for a lot of us.
Huge.
So that's one thing I think would make a huge difference.
I completely agree. I mean, I know each one of us, and I, have spent an incredible amount of money just trying to feel some sort of whatever this is of better. And the issue, and I see it in the chats, is most times it isn't being reimbursed. But what is giving me hope is I am also, through putting together this team, and I love, the experiment fearlessly that Dr. Bonnie said, but that could be very expensive. And so what I love is that by getting the right team that believes in complementary integrative, are more willing to advocate and go through those appeals. And I've had the same result once I got my right team in place, and they're out of Yale. And as a result, I'm not finding those issues when I want to try to find some additional modalities for some pains that I'm having. So 100%. Melissa, talk to me a little bit about some of the red flags that you've seen though.
If it's too easy or over promising, and I just see a lot of products or people outreach to me about different products to use, and just going back to it when it comes to this. But you brought up an interesting thing of just coverage, because even when it's covering those modalities, I would like to see it and make it less difficult, because if we're fighting with the insurance to get it covered, it doesn't help our pain and brain fog and just stress levels completely.
Which just makes the symptoms worse.
I know, because when I was trying to figure out how to get physical therapy covered, you had to get a prescription. There was only a certain amount. You'd have to go back and forth to get all of these things accomplished. So
yeah, absolutely.
And with social media, you do have to be careful. I mean, from my end,
my gosh,
I became distrusting though, because I had a lot of doctors experimenting. I tried all kinds of things, even the doctors were recommending. So I had to really do a lot of research. I started digging into PubMed now more than ever, just to see, okay, where is this? Maybe I can bring this to a provider and talk myself. But I'm trying to discern better, like where this was or why this works for someone, maybe because we're so different. It's personalized medicine.
That's just it. It is personalized medicine because we all have very different symptoms, and no two people are the same. We're now seeing traditional doctors embrace what I went through. I mean, I felt like I had my own doctor's degree by the time I did so much. I mean, I'm joking, I did not. But because I did so much research when I was diagnosed with a brain tumor, and how is this happening, and how can I shrink a brain, all those things I was going through, and tried every modality there was to do it before I had to open my head up. But what was available and who was willing to have those conversations then, and what's available and who you can have conversations with now is so different. My primary care is willing to talk to anybody across the board. And that wasn't the case. So I have so much hope that now with these new modalities and digital medicine and the fact that we're all able to embrace digital, and that is the positive side effect of the pandemic. We are embracing digital. I'm seeing hope for the future. Curious what you guys are most excited about. Where do you think that the future is going to be in terms of the intersection of conventional, functional, integrative, digital? There's everything. I think we call it CAM is the best way to say.
No, I agree, Indy. I think what I'm really excited to see and have been seeing more and more of is how things like wearables are being integrated into this process, or sweat sensing technologies, especially in the IBD space, to sort of detect inflammatory biomarkers skyrocketing one day or something like that, predicting flares. I think that would be essential, especially in this virtual environment we've been in for some time now, to help manage our care better. And that wouldn't just be from the traditional medicine side. I think it could work really well from a complementary medicine side too, to say, hey, this patient may be flaring. Maybe we come at this from all angles, one step at a time, and see what the patient is tolerating to prevent, a full-blown flare or prevent a full-blown need for emergency surgery or hospitalization. So to me, I would really like to see a lot more prevention from digital health.
Yeah, I mean, now you're speaking my language. And by the way, I totally think, Melissa, you and I should talk. Consider you're saying what I'm putting on my body. I too have a greenhouse in my backyard that I eat organic out of, so I'm with you. But oh yeah, I think that there is so much truth to what are we doing? Even when I saw when you guys had your pre-call, what are we doing to educate young adults about environmental factors and triggers? How are we looking at things as simple as sleep, good nutrition, stress levels, and really learning what some of these triggers before that switch goes off that you can't turn back, right? So what about you, Melissa? I'm really excited to hear. I mean, as someone who's so involved in the biohacking, loves that, which I've been geeking out also. So really interested to hear what you're excited about.
I love the digital health that's evolved. I mean, we talked about wearables, integration of all the tracking. It's nice to get all this information. I do think we need more in the prevention. So even if people had better access to continuous glucose monitors, so they can learn about their metabolism a little bit better. And then also just local, like getting people integrated with local food systems, growing their own food. And of course, I'm excited about the future, because I'm biased here, of health coaching. Shout out to all my health coaches out there, just because a lot of us have been in the patient seat, and now we're trying to bridge this gap of communication between patients and providers so that we can really help patients do all the behavior change they need and meet their goals. So that's something I'm really excited about.
I never I'm so glad I'm part of this panel, because I never realized that that's really what a health coach did, was really helping you assemble that team so that you can advocate for the best possible options available to you. And really, I mean, listen, it is a minefield out there, and you're looking for that quick fix, and we all know that doesn't. That's my biggest red flag. This will cure something in 10 days or less. But I think that's part of it is finding ways for, and I'm reading through the chat and everyone's like, my doctor doesn't see this, my doctor, and that's just it. Then that's probably not the right doctor for you. But I do realize that there are, and we've had this conversation, limitations to what's available to us, depending on where you live, your socioeconomic, affording to even keep making these changes can be so difficult as well.
It is difficult because the providers, I mean, it's hard to keep saying, get rid of the providers, because we work with a lot of people in rural parts of the country. So there's only one provider that they can go see.
That's just it.
So that's why it's like, okay, so what tools, if your provider, maybe see what you can get from them, like, the basic blood test panels, make sure you're not anemic or those basic things, and then start doing what you can. So we'll meet everyone where they're at. What can you change in your life and bring that to you?
Yeah, exactly. Oh, and I just realized, guys, where the Q&A was, I was looking in the wrong place. So that's great. But I will let you know that someone just wrote, because I think we're ending now, that Anne just wrote, Indy, Tina, and Melissa, they wanted to comment on this session that we're empowering and utterly amazed. And thank you. I think that's the best way to close out, making us feel good. But, I think that the best approach to as taking what you both said, and certainly my experience, what Dr. Bonnie is don't give up. I know it's really easy to be fed up, but don't give up. There is help out there. And someone wrote, do you think some of those modalities work, or it's the belief that it works? You know what? The truth is, it doesn't matter. If you feel good, that's the end goal, right? As long as you're feeling good, your markers are getting better. If you have markers, and some people have autoimmune disease, but they're not marker, showing, it's feeling good and living your best life while you can. And so thank you, ladies, so much for joining me on this morning. I totally am inspired by both of you. So thank you so much. And I think we're done, and we're going to pass this back to Autoimmune Association. Thank you,
Thank
everybody.
you. Bye.
Bye.